This week on Movie Mayhem Live, Debra Messing and John Cho talk about their new movie, Searching. Ben Kingsley sits down with Greg Russell Detroit about Operation Finale. Movie reviews of Kin, The Little Stranger, A.X.L, and Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood. But first, we've got to take you to a little river town in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, Monaca. It's Movie Mayhem Live. Hey everyone, I'm Chuck the Movie Guy, and welcome to Movie Mayhem Live podcast number 6. Want to clarify something right off the bat. Had somebody say, hey, I tried clicking on that video, and no, the box to join the show is at the top of the page. It's blue, it says contact us, join us. And please don't forget to like the page. We got a huge show, something like 5 movie reviews to do. So we're gonna go right off the bat to Vegas, the MGM Grand at his suite. Let's get to Jeff Howard. Jeff! Hey Jeff, did you get your room service? Oh, we got no audio. You know,
oh, no.
There we go. You're back.
Okay,
You're back.
Good. Yes. Yes, I'm here at the MGM, and I have room service coming again, a couple steaks. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting, I'm going to do your show here. I'm excited. A lot of movies today.
Hey, we got to get over to Vegas at the downtown Detroit in the penthouse. Greg Russell, Detroit. Here we go. Look out, Greg.
Oh,
hey, how's it going there?
It is going well, Glad to be here with you guys again, as always, on a Thursday.
Say hi to Jeff Howard, the Vegas film critic.
Hello, Jeff Howard, Vegas film
What's
critic.
up, Detroit? How you doing?
No,
well.
you're forgetting the lifetime member of the Las Vegas something or other. He's got a trophy. I don't know. I don't have a trophy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for prepping the show and knowing what you're talking about there.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Hey, make sure you tell Aretha I said goodbye, okay?
Okay, no problem. Hey, we got to run on over to the Bronze Fawns. He's got a little apartment right in that house. It's right there. It's Gino. Hey, Gino, my good friend.
Hi, fellas.
How you doing? Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
hey guys, we got a lot to cover, and Gino's he's got an appointment or something. He goes, hey, I can't do the show. I go, you can do the show for 5 minutes. So real quickly, I wanted to cover the box office. If you remember where we left off the last show, Crazy Rich Asians had 26 million, The Meg at 21, and Mission Impossible in 4th place at 10. And the reason why I bring that up is, take a look at the very slight change in this week's box office. Look at that, Crazy Rich Asians, 24 million. The Meg, once again in 2nd place with 12, and Mission Impossible Fallout stays in 4th place with $8 million more. That is just amazing. You know, Happy Time Murders. Can we safely say it tanked? Is that what did it do?
Oh, it's an official bomb. Yeah. So is Mile 22.
Oh, really? Oh, so sad. I know we're all splitting differences on that one. Anyhow, Gino's giving me the hairy eyeball. He's got to get out of here. So we're going to jump right into the movie reviews this week. Let's take a look at Searching. I got to tell you, this movie, I didn't see this movie, but it looked so intriguing to me. And Gino called me before the show, and he's like, hey, don't really talk about the movie because I'm going to have Debra Messing explain to you how it was filmed. You sat down and talked with Debra Messing, Gino?
I did, and you know, this is such a novel movie, and why should I explain it? Let's have Debra explain how they shot it.
All right, I'm looking forward to that.
How proud are you of this movie?
I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited about it, really, more than anything. I'm really, really excited.
For audiences that don't know, talk about how it is filmed.
It's unlike anything that has ever been done before. The entire thing is seen through the devices that we use in our everyday life. So whether or not it is a computer screen, iPad, a phone, security cameras, and it's really fun to watch because it really is reflecting back to you what your daily life is. It's like, oh, I do that. But then on top of that, it's like a classic suspense thriller. And I grew up on those, like Jagged Edge, and they don't make those anymore. And so even if you take that device out, it's still a really compelling suspense thriller. And it was a hugely, hugely challenging thing to shoot. We did the whole thing in 13 days. I shot for 5 days. I mean, it's nuts. But when I saw it completed, my head exploded.
But look how it came back together. So
It
nice.
did. It all came back together.
Hey, now, Gino, correct me if I'm wrong there, but isn't Sandra Bullock going to get a little bit jealous that you're flirting with Debra Messing?
That was the purpose of the whole thing. I can only hope.
You guys could all hear her, correct? Because I was having a little bit of problems. Okay, all right.
Well, I'm actually seeing this tonight after the show here that we're doing it. I'm seeing Searching it in a couple of hours, and even though it looks really interesting, but I have to admit, last month we had Unfriended 2, which was the same kind of premise. They were all the friends were on Skype together, and they got into the dark web because the guy bought a laptop that was on the black market, and it belonged to someone who is doing some real nefarious things on the dark web. So it was all about the windows coming in and out. It was the whole perspective was looking at the computer screen the whole movie. So even though I think Searching is probably going to expand on that a little bit, but it looks pretty cool to me. I mean, I love movies that involve our technology and our daily lives like this.
Yeah, now, Greg, you actually sat down with John Cho. You went to L.A. to talk to him?
Right.
All right.
I did. Had a good time. And like we said, it's a movie that is shot in a different way than we've ever seen. Because, most of it is like this. You see it on the phones or computers and different things like that. And he as well was amazed at the fact that it only took 13 days to shoot.
Wow.
My goodness, we've all been on junkets that seemed like longer than that.
All right, let's take a look.
I think the filmmakers were, it started with this admission that we're living more and more of our lives inside these screens, and so it's as storytellers, the question is how do you dramatize that, and how do you do it in a way that's effective, but it's still connected to the classic thrillers that we grew up with, and so I think that's the achievement, is marrying this new conceit with the classic form.
Now, like you said, you can go and figure out where somebody was,
Yeah.
what area they may still be in,
Yeah.
and then as a parent, you'll go to any length, of course, to save your child.
I mean, if to make that film, the old film, the old way, my character, who's a father who searching for his missing daughter, I would have been, going to the playground with the Polaroid of her and saying, "Have you seen this girl?" And it would have rung as false. It's not what a real father would do today, because that's ineffective.
Goes
Did
by
you see
as
the
well,
ending
no.
coming?
No.
That's good. I like it. Yeah.
No, and I love it when they do that, where you're sitting up there thinking, one thing, and then something else happens, and it's like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's the thriller for today.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Can I quote you on that?
Yes, I was that just dawned on me too. It's like, that's my quote.
Now, Greg, explain to me something. Were you acting there pretending like you've never been quoted before for a movie poster or a TV ad?
No. In fact, I'm so bummed now. I don't have it in arm's length. I was cleaning out some old DVDs the other day, came across the Shooter DVD that you personally autographed for me because your quote's on the front.
That's true. I love that movie, and it's my favorite book of all time. So Jeff and I are going to have to take a back seat here. Gino, why don't you give us, I know you really like this movie, so why don't you give me your take on it?
Well, okay. It is a movie made for these times, and I think because at first it seems like a gimmick that you're seeing everything through all these devices, then you completely forget about it. And I think because of that, you get drawn into it more than you would if it was told in a conventional way, because we are so used to, the video on our phone, iChats, things like that. And I was completely drawn into the story. I really loved how they did it. And I'm not going to say anything about the ending like John was saying, but I don't see anyone being disappointed with this movie. I think it's that good.
Greg, what do you think?
I'm right there with Gino. Like you said, when you're watching this movie, especially some of the things that pop up on the screen, there's Google, Facebook, Twitter, and all like this, and you're looking, going, that's the stuff I look at every single day. We're always looking down at our screens, our devices, or what have you, and it has become such a big part of our lives that it was like, yeah, it is. It's
Gino,
the modern
cut it out.
time.
He's such
Sorry,
he's
I
such
couldn't
a
resist.
comedian. So, all right, so Gino, give me a letter grade.
Oh, I give it an A. I'm A minus, but I liked it that much.
Gino, you just said
Wow.
A, and now I got to go and switch the A minus.
Maybe B plus. No, I'll stick with A.
Hey, look, I got the letters back. We're all good on that.
All right.
Fantastic.
Greg, what do you think?
And I'll do the B plus then.
Oh, excellent. Look at that, B plus. I'm going to get some audio on that as well. We're slowly evolving here. So it sounds like it's a great movie. I know, Jeff, you said you're seeing it. I have to wait till tomorrow to see it.
Well, movies open on Thursday around here. There's usually Thursday night screenings now. Nothing opens on Friday anymore.
Oh, now, Gino, you have a big, important meeting you got to go to or something?
I do, and I would love to tell you more about it, but I would lose a lot of money if I said where I'm going.
It's
Night
called,
court. Aren't you
can I
going to
say
night court?
pedicure? Well, he's gone. He's gone. Look at that. What a jerk.
Wow.
What a
much more-
jerk. See
so
if
much
we
more
invite
room
him
now.
back.
Too much more room.
Yeah.
I
All
know,
right.
yeah,
Now,
stretch out a little more. All right.
I wanted to do something different. I had the next movie up. Gee, I didn't even pull up the searching for that one. But the next movie is Operation Finale. And I was going to show some of the trailer, but I decided instead of us talking about the movie, why don't we have the cast tell us about this true story? Now, Greg, you sat down with Ben Kingsley, correct?
Correct. And, as always, a great time talking to him. Because as we know, he's played so many fascinating people throughout history. I just wanted to find out what it was for him to play somebody else who was more infamous than the others.
Well, I want to take a look at that right in a second, but I've interviewed him a bunch of times, I'm sure you have, but one time, and I was straining to remember the movie, I had a terrible interview with him. I don't know whether it just didn't click, and he's usually like the greatest interview ever. And I don't even know why I brought that up because.
And the first time I interviewed him was with you, Greg, when we met many years ago in England. We did a Thunderbird set visit, remember?
That's right. That's
Yes.
right.
Wow. Well,
And
let's
I
take a
did
look at.
House of Sound and Fog too. I interviewed him.
Oh,
Yep, did
that
one
was a
too. That
great
was another
movie.
good one.
Great film.
Great movie. All right, let's take a look at a little bit of Greg's interview.
You played.
Well, maybe not. Let me
That
see
is
if
a
I can-
little
bit.
It was a little
Yeah,
bit.
That's what's called just a little.
A tease.
Let me see if I can pull that back up there. I don't like what happened there. All right, ready and.
You played so many, I guess you could say, famous or infamous characters through history. Of course, we think Gandhi, that one. And now playing this, what's it like to step into this guy's shoes?
I never stepped into his shoes. What happened was that I kept myself separate from him by using a trick in my imagination. I'm a painter, a portrait artist. This man, this man comes into my studio, and I put him on canvas, so he never becomes me. I translated that which was in my studio to the canvas, the camera, and I put him straight from him to the camera. He never went through me. I never stood in his shoes. And that's counterintuitive, because I have played men that I've loved. Simon Wiesenthal, Otto Frank, Isaac Stern, Gandhi, many, many men that I would choose to keep company with as a friend. So this man I had to use quite a different technique.
It's one where you hope people get out, they see this movie, they understand the movie, they understand the things that happen, because as the old saying goes, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
And that's the last thing we want.
What we can aspire to as filmmakers is that the audience will have thoughts after the film that they would not have had before they saw the film.
Right, because, like
As
you said,
modest as that, that's all we can hope for.
Now, Greg, at any time after you asked him if he got into his shoes, did you think he was going to lean in and choke the living daylights out of you?
I did. It scared me because the way he said it, and honest to God, in my mind, I'm going, oh, crap.
I was like, you ticked off Ben Kingsley. But no, I can imagine that's a question he probably got asked before. And if you really think about it, that's a great question. But in this case, you really don't want to, to ask somebody, hey, what was it like being a monster?
I dare say that one of our friends, I'll tell you who, when we're offline, did go in and went, because, as everybody knows, you have to call him Sir Ben. You don't just go in and go, hi, Ben, or hello, Mr. Kingsley, or whatever. He is a sir. So one of our friends went in and said, hi, Sir Ben, I'm Madam So-and-so. And just, it went over like a fart in church, as the old saying goes.
I tell you, now, you got to talk to the rest of the cast, too. Now, excuse me, Jeff, have you seen this movie?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to say anything because this has got to be one of the best movies I've seen this year. I mean,
right,
yeah. And,
well, in setting up the film, I mean, this is one of the great thrillers in history that actually happened. I mean, the Nazis all dispersed after World War II. Most of them went to South America. A lot of the Mossad, which is the Israeli Secret Service, were Nazi hunters, and they were going after the biggest Nazi that escaped. Adolf Eichmann, who was the Final Solution orchestrator. I mean, he was one of the most wanted criminals in the world, and they had to verify it, they had to find him, but Argentina at the time in 1960 was turning fascist. A lot of Nazis went there. They were trying to take over the country. Okay, so first you have to verify it's really him. He's got a new identity and a new family. Then you've got to somehow kidnap him, get him out of the country, because the Israeli prime minister just didn't want a bullet in his head like they treated most of the Nazis they captured. They wanted to put him on trial for the world to see. So how do you get him out of Argentina that doesn't have an extradition policy, and most of the Nazis are looking for him once you kidnap him? Not to give any spoilers away, but it's an amazing thriller.
Yeah, what was one of the things, because you can have it no matter how perfect your plan is, something's going to go wrong. And in this case, pretty much everything went wrong, if I'm not mistaken.
Everything went wrong.
Yeah, like you said, right from the beginning, everything they had planned, it was supposed to go 1, 2, 3, but it wound up going A, B, C. Yeah, any which way things could go wrong. And then something else that was interesting, the director, Chris Waits, who directed the film, in the movie, as you both saw, he had that one scene in the movie theater where they were showing the clip from Imitation of Life. Remember that one with Lana Turner from back in the day? So I told him, I said, it was interesting because the scene they showed really kind of fit in perfectly with the guy and the girl who were in the theater, just kind of meeting. And so he said, oh, yeah, he said, it was great. It wound up being perfect. Plus, that's my mom. And I went, Susan Kohner is your mother? So, yeah, the girl who starred in Imitation of Life, that's his mom.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it's interesting to point out too in this movie is it's not just a thriller where we kidnap somebody, get him out of the country, and it's a standard action film. Is that the scenes that I wasn't expecting between Oscar Isaacs and Ben Kingsley, when he's up in the room, he's blindfolded, it's almost like a play. So he's got to get his trust. He's got to verify who he is, and there's a specific way to do that. But there's all these scenes where they were getting under each other's skin, they were learning about each other, gaining each other's trust, and the ramifications of that. And I thought that was the most fascinating part of the movie.
Yeah, tremendous. I'm going to go right off the bat. I'm going to go first. And I'm going to give this movie a good solid A. Just absolutely on the edge of my seat. And plus the fact it's true, and you got some amazing performances in here. What did you think, Jeff? What grade are you going to give it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it deserves an A because it was a very fine balance making it a History Channel movie of the week versus a theatrical film. And there were times in the movie that it was right there up on the screen. That's where it deserved it. And a fascinating story. And a lot of kids nowadays, a lot of younger generation don't know about the Holocaust. Everyone's forgetting about it. So this is something that you need to remind people of. It's just like in your interview you were saying, Greg, that it's something that can't be forgotten. It's still happening today. The rise of fascism in Europe.
Right, absolutely.
Greg, what do you give the movie?
Well, I guess we're all going to be Fonzies tonight. A.
So wait a minute. So if you gave it an A, you gave it an A, and I gave it an A. So that averages out to, hold on, 1, 2, carry the A. Yeah, I'm not sure. Math is something that I'm not really good at. So
3 Ginos. 3 Ginos.
3 Ginos? Yeah, exactly. All right, next up is Kin.
Mystery to me.
Like I said, next up is Little Strangers. Now,
I'm so lost.
Exactly. it's mayhem, I tell you.
And during the trailer, I'm studying my notes for Ken. And I'm like, oh my God, now I got to switch to Little Stranger.
Now, they screened The Little Stranger the same night as, I think, Crazy Rich Asians for me. So I couldn't see it. I had to make a decision. Now, did you see it, Jeff?
Yeah, The Little Stranger screening was the same night as Ken. So I had to make a choice of which one to see. So I saw Little Stranger actually like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Did you see this, Greg?
No, because it was on the same night that the TV show Detroiters was on Comedy Central, so I watched
Okay,
that.
well, in our case...
So turn off his microphone then, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So wait a minute. So
I
you
didn't get
didn't
a
see
chance
Little
to see it.
Strangers?
No,
Oh,
It's
you
just me
saw
and
it.
you, Chuck. Did you see it, Chuck?
I didn't see it. You're on your
I
own.
haven't seen it.
All right, first of all...
I'm the only one who saw it, huh?
Okay. All right. I got to tell you, I watched the entire 2-minute and 30-second trailer. I ran about a minute of it now. I still have no idea what this movie's about. Tell me, Jeff, what's going on here?
Well, it's based on the best-selling book, I think it's 2009, by Sarah Waters, and it stars Domhnall Gleeson, who's Dr. Faraday. And in 1948, he makes a call to the Hundreds, the Hundreds Hall. And the Ayers family has lived there for 2 centuries. And he ends up falling in love with one of the heirs, with one of the sisters, played by Ruth Wilson. And it's a really bizarre film because the first hour of the movie is kind of like a romance. He's trying to, find true love with one of his patients. And then it starts turning into a thriller, kind of a ghost story. And there's some sort of poltergeist that's running loose in the house. They're ringing the bells, there's writing on the wall, furniture is moving. But what's really unique about the film is it's not that cut and dry because there's mental illness in the family. So you're constantly trying to figure out, are these things really happening, or is it something that's being imagined by one of the Ayers sisters? So it's really kind of like a room with a view thriller. It's a very English.
Okay.
Domhnall Gleeson is always just that prim and proper doctor, but he's just desperate to find true love, even if it's someone who's mentally ill or a family that's haunted. So overall, it's a really interesting thriller, but it's very slow, but it does have a good payoff. So I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, based upon what you said, and I saw all kind of great reviews online, and I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I missed this. But listening to you talk about the movie and watching the full trailer, I have no desire to see this movie.
Well, if you're expecting, a Ghostbusters kind of movie or a Poltergeist kind of movie, it's much more subtle than that. It's much more. It's more, like I said, it's very cerebral. It's not about American Horror Story or something like that. It's a very English version of a ghost story. So it's more character-driven than things jumping at you and scaring you.
Now, Greg, do you see this movie being one of your wine movies that you guys do in Detroit?
We possibly could. Yeah, we just had our wine and recline last night, and the movie was The Big Chill. So we had a great time with that.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Is it W-H-I-N-E, or is it?
Yes.
Well,
wind chill.
I'll probably have to see this for award season, but I'm in no hurry to see this. What letter grade are you going to give it, Jeff?
I'll give it a B.
B? Okay.
Yes. It wasn't great, and it wasn't miserable. It's just slow. Very English. Just an English film.
Yeah. Period. It looks like a period piece, too. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. 1948 English mansion that's running down. And that's what's great, too. The mansion itself is part of the movie as a character because it's just run down this huge place and just exploring all these different parts of the house. And it's a cerebral poltergeist thriller.
Okay. All right. Okay. Next up, as promised, it's Kin. Jeff, what the heck is going on here?
Am I the only one who's seen this, too?
Greg, did you see this?
No, I didn't either.
Tell us what's going on here, Jeff.
Conflict Diamonds. Go ahead, Jeff. Make it.
Well, usually during the summer, I always choose a couple films that I look forward to. That's not the big blockbusters. Something that really intrigues me. One was The Meg. I couldn't wait to see that. And the other one, I saw this trailer like 6-7 weeks ago, and I was like, I can't wait to see this because I love films where you have kids in them that's like a fantasy. So this kid finds his alien ray gun. It sets up at the beginning of the film. There's this battle going on. It takes place in Detroit, too. So, Greg, I'm surprised you haven't seen it.
I thought that abandoned factory looked like there's an old one that's here. And it looks
Yes,
just like
absolutely.
that. Okay, great.
So he's in this blended family. His older brother's in jail for years for doing a robbery. His dad is the guy who plays as Miles Truitt. His dad is Dennis Quaid. So he's a young black teenager whose original parents were killed, and he's essentially is adopted into this new family. And so he's trying to make ends meet too, but he's starting to steal. His father doesn't want to take the same path as his older brother who's in jail. And he's stealing copper, he's stealing wires out of these abandoned office buildings in Detroit. And while he's there, these beings are having this intergalactic battle going on there. And when he leaves, he ends up taking one of the ray guns because they all killed each other. So he doesn't know what he has. When his brother gets out of jail, and he's played by Jack Rayner, who's great in Sing Street, by the way, he wants to do his one big score because James Franco's the big drug dealer. He paid money for protection in prison, so he owes James Franco $60,000. He's going to rob his dad's construction site and get the money out of the safe. Comes a road movie, so they're on the run, and as they're on the run, Franco is chasing them. As they go to different towns, they pick up a stripper played by Zoe Saldana. She's, oh, not Zoe, Zoe Kravitz, excuse me.
Right.
And not the other one. I just watched her in the movie. Sorry. And what's really unique is that he gets to shoot this gun. That's what you're waiting for. Now, this is based on a short film made by the directors, by the Baker brothers, and they stretched this movie out to almost 2 hours. So unfortunately, you're waiting for this ray gun to happen. The ending is really disappointing. It's slow moving. It's a family dynamic because the brothers are trying to get to know each other, and he has to remember that that he's a thief. And there's some spoilers in there that I want to give away. And then the whole third act of the movie takes place in a small Reno suburb that doesn't exist, in a police station where they do a whole Terminator homage where the aliens come in and everyone starts shooting up. It's really not aliens either. I don't want to give away the end of the film, but this movie really disappointed. It was slow, and no, I didn't give a spoiler away. The spoiler is it could have been much better, and it wasn't. So I was disappointed.
Okay, I want to go back to something Greg said, and I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail for this. So, Greg, isn't every warehouse in Detroit abandoned? I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. You got to come see this place. You would not believe it.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I know.
According to the news, Detroit's in a revival, big time.
I know. Trust me, I know. It was a bad joke. And who's playing the drug dealer in this movie?
James Franco.
Doesn't he always play a drug dealer? Or no, what?
He's vicious in this.
Really?
And that's another thing. Right? Watching the trailer, you think, wow, this is going to be kind of a teenager fun fantasy kind of adventure. No, it's for adults. Cops die, people die, vicious scenes in this. So I was surprised that it wasn't more family friendly. It wasn't. I was really shocked.
Right.
Okay. All right. And Greg, definitely going to see it, right? Because it's filmed in Detroit.
Well, I am now. Yeah, since I know it was from here. Yeah, I'll check it out maybe this weekend.
Jeff's going to have a quiz for you. So
DVD. Just wait.
What's the rating?
Okay.
I would give it I give it a D. Yeah. I was going to give it a C.
In other words, Greg's not going to be
Detroit. There you go.
Yeah.
D for Detroit. There it is.
He's not going to be racing out to see this anytime soon, is he?
I wouldn't let him unless he has Movie Pass or something where you can pay for it another way. I wouldn't waste my money on it. I really wouldn't.
Did you just say Movie Pass?
It's dead. Boy, you see the articles today? One of the CEO left or something, quit?
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah,
it's pretty much
fast.
over. So, all right, next up is A.X.L. Yeah, I am not going to waste any more of your time. I got to tell you something. First off the bat, this movie opened up in my neighborhood yesterday. I assumed that because it hadn't opened up that it was coming out this week, but no, we just got it.
Last week.
I know, it came out last week. So I thought, well, I'm going to race out and see this movie about this, and I had no idea. I actually only kind of glimpsed the poster. I'm like, that looks like a robot dog. This was the equivalent of a bad sci-fi movie.
Oh, wow.
On the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm
That's
sure
a
it'll end
family
up
film,
there.
right?
What's that?
It's a family film. It's a family film.
It is a family film, but it was pretty ridiculous. The kids, the government project, $70 million robot attack dog. It stands for Attack Exploration Logistics, but exploration is E, so why is it A.X.L? It should be A.E. But it just, then there's this dirt bike rider, and it's almost the same plot of Short Circuit. They find a robot, the attack robot. They becomes friends with it, and it was ridiculous. I was like, oh, I can't believe I paid money for this. This is terrible. Don't waste your time on this. I mean, this is a bad movie. I mean, I'm not even gonna get into it anymore. Just gonna have to trust me on that one. But that brings us to Greg. You didn't see it, did you?
No, and now I won't.
Yeah.
No.
I couldn't understand why the trailer, all the movies beforehand were all these family religious films. They kept, just slamming them down my throat.
But Chuck, just think, last week we had Alpha that came out, which was a caveman and his dog, and we had a kid and his futuristic robot dog. So we have 2 dog movies out at the same time from 2 different times.
Yeah. Well, there was one thing I wanted to bring up in this movie. There's just dirt. They race dirt bikes, and the Fontaine family is like the big racers with all the money. And the dad Fontaine, who's just an a-hole to his son, to everybody, he's talking, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I know this guy. I know that voice. Who is this guy? He looks so much different than what he should look like. And I actually looked it up on my phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Ted McGinley. I'm like,
yeah, he's gotten definitely older.
I did not recognize him. I was a little shocked. Now, that's not a reason to race out and see it, because the guy's been in 10,000 TV shows.
Right.
But I was a little shocked when he's like the only named person in the cast, too, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right. So that brings us to our final movie. It's what is the actual name of it? Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood. Now, I had no idea that this movie even existed until I saw that Jeff Howard was going to go check out this film. So, Jeff, were you familiar with this at all beforehand?
Yeah, I was familiar with his book, which was called Full Service, and Scotty was from the Midwest. He went into World War II in the Marine Corps at 18 years old, did his tour of duty, saw some serious action, and he came back. Instead of going back home, he stayed in Hollywood, and he worked at a gas station, a Richfield gas station on Hollywood Boulevard, which now, there's a fire station there now. And what he did was he talks about how Walter Pigeon pulled up in a convertible, got gas, and propositioned him, hey, you want to come back to my place, have a swim? And then things started to happen. So he started finding young men that were coming back from the war, 20-somethings, and pimping them out to the stars. And this is a tell-all documentary. I'm talking, he's saying Cary Grant and Randolph Scott were gay, and they lived together, and the code word was bachelors. And he tells all these stories about them, talks about Hepburn and Tracy, how they were both gay, and he gets into details. And we all know about Rock Hudson. He was best friends with Rock Hudson. Right. So there is so much going on in this movie. Your just jaw is scraping the ground, because I'm a Turner Classic Movie fan, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I've heard about, people like Charles Lofton and some of those. He goes through almost everybody you can think of, and not just movie stars, but moguls, musicians, Cole Porter. I can't even repeat, this is a family show, some of the things he says. And not only that, he's 95 years old, and this guy's brain is so sharp, he remembers everything like it happened yesterday. Wow. So it's a real powerful film. They're no longer around to defend themselves, but a lot of the escorts, they're called escorts today, back then they were called hustlers, and you wouldn't believe they had a trailer in the back, and then it's just people coming through constantly charging $20, and he bought homes with it. He got thousands of dollars in tips, and he became friends with these people. They just weren't clients. He knew everybody, and it's a shocking revelation. But then, like you saw in the trailer, they're saying, aren't you mad because you're betraying their trust? He's like, no, because, people were people even back then.
Right.
Yeah, well, how was it as a movie, though? I mean, first of all, it sounds fascinating. I love all these old movies. I love all these movie stars. I'm already shocked just by hearing some of the things you say, because I had no idea. Because studios would portray, they would set people up and make a big deal.
He talks about that. Everyone in Hollywood at the time knew the truth. They knew Rock Hudson was gay for 30 years. They knew Cary Grant was, but the studios protected their property. They created and fabricated these public personas and protected them. And they talk about how the Confidential magazine was always trying to out people, always trying to say, hey, what's going on? Why isn't Rock Hudson married by now? And they put together a gay, she was a lesbian secretary at the studio, and they had a sham marriage. So, and this still goes on today. Hollywood still protects its own. It's timeless. It really is. But to see that there's so much truth in this documentary, and that's what I really appreciate about it. And he is such a charming guy. Even to this day, he is just a charming guy.
So, but as a movie, how is it as a document? Is it actually a documentary, or is it just?
Yeah, absolutely. It follows him around. He tells you all these different locations. He recollects all the stories. He talks not only, and one thing that really touches on is that he talks about being abused as a child, but he says he liked it and he knew what was going on and he was never abused. And then he talks about everything, losing his brother in the war and all the shell shock he had from World War II. He's a hoarder. So when you see his different homes, these homes he bought 50 years ago, they're just piled high of stuff. And we see him going out finding toilets on the side of the street. And so he's got some sort of deep-rooted emotional problems from all of this because his homes are packed to the gills with stuff.
Wow. Now, Greg, you didn't get a chance to see this, have you?
No, I don't think it's opened up here yet, or at least because I know the theater would probably be at. But no, I look forward to seeing it. And only thing I kept thinking when you said Randolph Scott, of course, Jeff, our favorite line from Blazing Saddles. You would have done it for Randolph Scott. Randolph Scott.
I'm sure this is going to be for consideration during award season, so we'll all get the screener for it. But it's a very, very fascinating film about old Hollywood, but story as old as time.
Yeah, I checked. It's nowhere playing around me, so I'm going to keep an eye out for it. What do you give it? What kind of a grade?
Oh, an A. Absolutely. I loved it.
Really?
Oh, great.
Well done. It's so well done.
Oh, okay.
And it's not trashy either. I want to say, he does talk about having a three-way with Ava Gardner and Lana Turner at the same time. There's just things that he talks in detail over and over again. Wait to hear the Cole Porter story. I can't say it is. I'm too much of a gentleman.
I've heard Cole Porter stories.
Wait till he goes. I can't say it here, but I'll tell you guys off the air. Oh, you're a fan. If you're watching the show, you can email me, and I'll tell you.
All right.
I got to tell you, you've been. Oh.
Go ahead.
You guys have been talking about, award season, so that means, of course, screeners, right?
Right.
Well, look what came in today.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got mine. And did you get your mints? Did you get your?
Yes, I did. Got my mints, so I'm all set.
I didn't get any mints.
Oh, you didn't get any mints with yours? Well, I'm from Pittsburgh. It was filmed in Pittsburgh. That's like Mr. Rogers is like a big deal out here. Not that he isn't.
I wanted to go to that junket so bad. I saw the sets tonight because I'm Gen X. I grew up watching Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and Electric Company, all of those shows. And in fact, I have the. Oh, hold on a second. I'm gonna pull something down. Hold on.
What?
Keep talking.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that.
Good. He is wearing pants.
If you go to the Pittsburgh airport, you can actually see like different props from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. They have a little display, and you can. What'd you get there?
It's my pop figure for Mr. Rogers.
Ah.
Isn't that cool?
There you go.
As soon as the movie came out, I had to get this. I collect these now. Not a ton of them, but
he's got
about 2 of them by now.
Just picture the end of Indiana Jones when they're hiding the Ark of the Covenant in the warehouse, and Jeff's like, which bobblehead do I have? What are those called? Pops?
Which one do I take? Which pop?
Funko Pops, yes.
He's got, I know it's here, and there's all these crates,
It's better when your friend works at a Hot Topic and you can get them for a discount. So
really? Okay. All right. Well, we covered 5 movies, so that's pretty good. Jeff, why don't you give yourself a plug?
You can find all my movie reviews and interviews on my website, vegasfilmcritic.com. Also, my social media portals, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my YouTube channel. Check me out. Everything's on my YouTube channel.
Greg?
If you're here in Detroit, you can catch me each week on Live in the D on Local 4, as well as on clickondetroit.com. Plus, Movie Show Plus, that is our show. It airs here locally on Saturday. And also the website for that and Facebook page. And also the Greg Russell podcast, Greg Russell Movie Show podcast, that is, which is on New Radio Media. So there we go. That's all of it.
If you had to put our podcast and your podcast side by side, which one do you think makes a bigger impact on the movie world?
I think they're both special in their own way.
Is it a train wreck like ours?
Well, my co-host Jody always brings a bottle of wine, so we sit up and drink wine and talk about movies.
Okay.
No, don't forget your show, Whining with Greg Russell. I like that one
Oh
too.
yeah, that's true. He just sits around and complains about movies.
That's what I do. It's wine and complain with Greg at the movies.
And
that wouldn't be a bad segment.
And of course, I'm Chuck the
that.
Movie Guy from themovieguy.com. So you can check out my website or just stick with Movie Mayhem Live on Facebook. Please, if you're still around and watching this, click on that, like on that Facebook page. And please, next week, I beg you to click on that blue button, contact us, and you could be sitting in here right where Gino was, because we're probably never going to have Gino on again after his ditching us like he did today.
It's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes of fame.
My birthday is on September 6th. I'll have a link to the Amazon wish list in case you want to get me something. And thank you.
Is there a bobblehead pop thing or whatever that you don't have yet? Do you have like a list?
No, I don't want pop figures. No, I'm good. You don't have to buy me a pop figure.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
See you next week.